What is up, everybody? This is Try Something. I'm going to talk about my triathlon I did yesterday at Marin County Triathlon. I took first place overall, and I'm going to go over step-by-step of the different things that I thought about or did to give you an idea of what it was like. The night before, I had my regular meal that I usually have before my races. I prefer to have sushi. I had about 3 rolls of miso soup and some green beans, which was perfect. I went to sleep, full, and I did have a little bit of dessert. I believe it was some dark chocolate, 72%. I got about 6 hours of sleep, woke up, packed everything up in the morning, had my cup of coffee, and had a light breakfast. My breakfast was, some granola with coconut milk, blueberries, and a cut up banana. I went to transition right as it was opening. Put my bike in a spot that I felt was perfect, for the transition. Had enough time to take off my wetsuit, and felt like it was not out of the way, and had my bike set up in a nice position where I could just grab it and run right out the other side of transition. So at the beginning of the race, I look for this swimmer that I've seen in some other competitions. He is a very fast Division I swimmer. I think to myself, I'm going to follow him. So that's what I try to do. The gun goes off, I try to follow him. He drops me. 2 other guys pass me, and it turns out the 4th place guy out of the water seemed to pace pretty well with me. So I decide to stick next to him, draft on his side. I stick behind him about 750 meters in a 1,500 meter swim, and then I realize he's starting to lose some steam. So I go out on the side and try to cut around him, and realize that he is making my job a lot easier. So instead of taking the lead in front of him and being 4th place in the swim, I decide to hang back and save energy on the swim and just, relax behind him until I get out of the water. So I come out of the water 5th place, and, I start taking off my wetsuit. As I take down the wetsuit to my ankles and I start shuffling my feet to take off the wetsuit, I'm grabbing my helmet, as soon as my wetsuit's off my ankles, I grab my bike and I'm off. I ended up beating 2 people out of transition, so I was 3rd place going on to the bike. The bike was 4 loops of a semi-hilly course, rolling hills, I guess we could call it. And the first lap, I was just thinking about, holding back, going easy, saving my matches, and, keeping cadence high, but not a lot of force. So the first lap goes by. I don't see anyone. I shout to a couple people asking who's in front of me because I didn't know, and they said people were in front of me. So I didn't know how many. And the second lap, I end up seeing someone in front of me after I come around a bend. And he was going a couple miles slower than me, a couple miles an hour slower than me. So I catch up to him and pass him. We don't say anything to each other. And, I also end up noticing that there's someone even further in the distance, because on this circuit, you can see people that are coming back, because you do the loop around and you go around a cone. And as you're going towards the cone, if someone's in front of you, you can see them go in the opposite direction. So circuit courses are pretty nice in that sense. So I did know that there was one other person in front of me, and I did see that the gap was closing. At the end of the second lap, I ended up catching that particular person, and he was quick. He was going full bore, and I was just focusing on staying my aero position, keeping the right cadence, not too much force, staying in aero, not getting up on the hills, because if you ever notice on a hill, if you stand up, your wattage and your miles per hour are going to go down. So it was my first race where I really had to hold back consciously and really tell myself not to get out of the saddle. The only time I did get out of the saddle was because I felt my right hamstring about to cramp up. And so by getting out of the saddle, it was worth the the cost in my speed and my wattage to not cramp up, because cramping up would have devastated me. So we do the 3 laps on the bike, and I come out of the bike leg in first place still. I have one of the fastest transitions I've ever had in my life. I believe it was 24 seconds. Do the flying dismount, rack my bike, put on my shoes, grab my sunglasses and my bib, and just put those on while I'm running. The run felt really fluid. I was focusing on keeping my elbows at 80%, relaxed shoulders, toes, long strides, and there was 2 loops, and the run is usually really hard for me, but this time it felt so natural. And I think the main thing was the taper. The taper that I did the week prior was absolutely phenomenal. Joe Friel in Advanced Training for Triathletes book that he wrote really helped me out. And if you haven't read it, I definitely suggest on taking a look at that. So yeah, I'm on the run and I'm shouting to people, "Hey, you got a stopwatch? You got a stopwatch?" And then people would shout back, "Yeah." I'd be like, "Start timing from the time I pass you to the time that the next guy passes you, and tell me the next time." I said all those words really quick, and I said it to a couple different people. And so on the second loop of the run, I would go back to these people that I said that to, and I'd say, "What's the split? What's the split?" The first time they said, 253. Second time was 315. Third, fourth time, it just kept growing and growing and growing. So I knew my pace was good, and I just wanted to maintain. At the second half of the run, it really started to, I was able to start to feel how much I was putting my body through, and I started to die down a little bit, but I kept pushing through, and the last part of the race is a slight incline, and that's really where it started to get painful. So, it was just about focusing on each moment individually. If I'm running, think about my run form. If I'm biking, think about my bike form. If I'm swimming, think about drafting. Think about sighting. Thinking about staying a certain distance away from that person who's the same pace as you. I ended up finishing first place, collapsing at the end. I was so overwhelmed with happiness. It's really hard to explain. But that's about it. If you have any questions for me, feel free to ask, and I'd love to answer them for you. Thanks for everyone's support, and I'll talk to you later.